Hi, and welcome back to Devil's Advocate. I'm Tracy McLean Lowe, and hello, Alana. How are you?
Hello, I'm well, thank you, my love. And how's it all going with you?
Oh, it's going quite well. I mean, personally speaking, but
Good.
the news is ravaged and ragged and war-weary Ukraine.
Yes, well,
35 days in.
There was that distraction with Will Smith for a while, wasn't there? And then it was like, can we not focus on that? Can we focus on the bigger issues rather than Will Smith slapping someone in the face?
Nobody cares.
Over there.
Well, we do care. We do care.
We do.
But at the same time, yeah, there are so many bigger issues than one man being slapped because he's taken the mick out of somebody else's wife.
Exactly.
But
there we go.
You know, I can play devil's advocate on that one. I cannot condone violence, but I also cannot condone other people trying to make funnies out of other people's issues.
Exactly. It's a cool thing to do on both their parts. It's cruel to make a joke about someone's condition. It's also cruel for someone to literally walk up to them and slap them in the face. Like, you know, just be adult men here.
It's all a little bit harsh. Yeah, use your words, folks. Use your words.
Exactly.
And I don't think I'm the first one this week to say that.
So let's talk on what's been happening with Ukraine then, and you know, the whole Russia thing.
Well, as we were saying last time, fake news.
Yes.
Some people are thinking it's fake. And well, you're saying it's fake, but yet you're believing the things that are coming out of Russia. So exactly which part of this war is fake here?
Exactly.
You know, and I've always been one for the underdog myself, you know.
Absolutely.
The plucky little hero.
Yes. You know.
And numerically speaking, on the numbers on the ground level, as soldiers and weapons and things are going, the Ukrainians and Zelensky are the plucky underdog in comparison to the 200 odd million people of Russia who have had this rather dictatorial leader for the last 22 years, I think 22 years. He's been president, he's been prime minister, and now I think he's going for Tsarship.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wow. I think the man wants to be. Well, you know, it's like if you take a look at sort of like any of the dictators, I mean, there's a ton of dictators out there and have been out there for ages, and they rule with an iron rod. They don't like any opposition. They'll kill them by any means necessary. And yet they are doomed to failure. I mean, we can say our monarchies have failed as well, but these dictatorships wish they were a monarchy.
Yes, absolutely.
And psychologically speaking, we have Queen Elizabeth in the UK. We've had a monarchy for over 1,000 years. This particular, this particular union under the UK and Great Britain has sort of like been solid for 500 years. But even across Europe and across Britain, we have had kings and queens. And we might not like say, oh, it's tribal and it's ancient history, but this is a living history.
Yes.
And I think dictators want to be that, say, you take a look at North Korea and Kim Jong-un. Yeah. Now, he is the grandson of the guy who started this dictatorship. Just a common folk kind of guy who decided he wanted to be big boss and, you know, get communist and be all-hailed leader.
Yes.
And now his grandson is there. Now, under monarchy, we do the kind of the same thing. But in the UK and even across Europe, the monarchy does not control the government the same way a dictator does, at least not anymore. We have grown beyond that. And we've also realized, I mean, Europe certainly has, that their monarchy or the Royal Central, they've all been sort of like tailored back to fit the modern world. They get involved in charities. They are very much culturally part of our European heritage. And to throw that away for any reason, I don't care what side your politics are on, is you're destroying history. As I said, this is living in, they are the ones that look after it. They are the caretakers of our history.
Yes.
Is the way I look at it. You know, I'm not saying they're perfect, because they are only human like the rest of us, even if they're allegedly whatever. But the point is they're in. They've been there. They are carrying on thousands of years of legacy, not 40 years of legacy or 20 years of legacy or even 70 years of legacy. They are carrying on thousands of years of legacy under a monarchy. And as somebody from Europe and England, I would hate to see that dissipate altogether.
Yes.
And I like the idea that we have a constitutional monarchy. And everybody's saying, oh, let's be a republic. Really? Have we seen what happens to a republic? They end up with dictators.
Exactly.
I'm going to just hide my little funny face here, because all the dictators we like.
You know who was a great dictator, even though he was never a dictator, was our Charlie Chaplin. Did you ever see The Great Dictator?
Oh, yes. And of course, then you're bringing it back to your Nazi, you know, the greatest dictator. He played Hitler. And so I mean, you've got all of those guys, and I think Hitler's in here. I can't see him on my screen at the moment, but I'm sure he's up there somewhere. I mean, granted, under the military thing, we kind of like killed that under that particular war. We killed over 40 million people, of which approximately 6 million were Jewish, and 20 million happened to be killed on the Eastern Front in Russia, and frozen to death and starved to death. So you can understand why Russians hate Nazis. But then, of course, that's not Nazis sitting on the Russian-Ukraine border.
Right.
Never has been. And that's where your fake news comes in, as we said, you know. So, Hitler. Throw that one in just for luck. You know, that's the kind of propaganda they put out. And granted, I can't particularly read that because that's in German, and despite the fact that I know Afrikaans, this doesn't help me. Not at this particular point in time. But these are from the archives, the German archives, or the Nazi archives that they've got online. These are images. And, you know, we have always used images either to take the piss out of people, which is, you know, what's that Charlie, what's his face in France?
Charlie, oh gosh.
Yeah, well, we know who we're talking about. There's no need to sort of like publicize it. You know, it doesn't take much. It takes a cartoon. It takes an outdated image. Oh yeah, that image is so outdated. Yeah. But the news probably is accurate. But because it, you know, they've got, oh no, it's all fake.
Yes. It's hard to know what to trust anymore, because as we were saying previously, it's so easy to Photoshop. You know, you can grab an image from like 1914 and you can quite literally pixelate it. You can move stuff around, you can add color in. And that's why it's so hard to believe these sources and where they legitimately come from and whether the information is true or false. And that's when, you know, we were sort of discussing our mass panic, you know,
you're sort of like moral panics and what is basically driven by fear.
Right. As soon as one person starts believing a source, like we should be fearful of this, our tendency as human beings, unfortunately, it's almost like a domino effect, or like we are sheep. We seem to follow that same opinion.
Yeah.
Or it's what's orchestrated for the news. Like, this is frightening. This is what we should be fearful of. And us as a passive audience, we're like, absolutely, you are correct. It's almost like we've been conditioned to feel a certain way for the media. And it's kind of scary.
It is. I mean, it was Stanley Cohen.
Yeah.
In the 60s. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Wild Ones beat up Margate.
Yeah. Wild Ones.
And 40 arrested in all-day clashes. And at the time in the 60s, the mods, the rockers, they were the youth culture of the time. You know?
Oh, that's it. Now they're being dubbed the Wild Ones, right?
Yeah. And of course, in the 60s, you had the hippies. You know, we can go back to Roman times and you've got the barbarians that are coming to raid us. Okay, granted, the barbarians did raid them. But the whole idea that they made them possibly worse than they actually were, or they're trying to act innocent, where it was really a whole other story, you know, so and so attacked us, when no, actually they only attacked you because you attacked them first.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, like with the minority, we often, they penalize a certain group of people and call them either, you know, like we just saw in that article, like wild ones, or even today, you know, a certain set of people could be dubbed terrorists, right? When, you know, it could just be like like particular mods and rockers, they were like outcasted because they sort of went against the system. But you know, that's just a different opinion. That's just a different opinion and a different set of ideas. And because people don't like that set of ideas, they're like, they're bad, they're the wild ones, everyone needs to be fearful of them.
Here's the thing. I mean, I did this under crime and media back at university back in the couple of years ago, actually almost like 10 years ago. And that is the whole problem, really. They incite the fear, and that particular panic, while they very much so had you know, mods and rockers down on their little mopeds down on the beaches, it was very, there was a few people who complained. They actually made a lot more of it than they needed to. Had the police not actually gone down there, there would have been nothing for the mods and rockers to bounce off against. So it's the way the police interact that incites the arrests, as opposed to, had they just left them alone, let them make a noise until 11 p.m, they'd have all gone home.
Well, that's it. Well, that's it, right?
You know, because it was the 1950s, you know, and my mom talked about the, you know, these mods and rockers. I mean, she remembers going and so like getting insects in her teeth riding on the back of one of these things down in the 50s down to the local beach. But, you know, my mom was just having fun, just like I was just having fun at the drive-ins and at the wherever I went to when I was a youth, kind of thing. So,
you know, and you know, it's so interesting, even like the type of language that's used in those headlines. Like, I wonder, you know, and it's funny because the mods and rockers, they're like now accepted in today's nation, in today's, you know, like
that's part of our culture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like a cool thing, you know. I like wear my Doc Martens, everyone loves those, like, I love your boots. But back in the day, that would be symbolism of a bad person.
Yeah, you were part of the left wing, you know, left wing.
Yeah, exactly.
And on that particular note, I'm going to stop part 1 / introduction of the propaganda at the propaganda. We'll be back.